On March 30th, 1987, Platoon, a low-budget, independent, non-SAG film, cast with mostly unknowns, making their first movie, won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture.
And the winner is Platoon.
Platoon.
This isn't a story about winning awards, but rather the journey of the no-name grunts that made this film what it is, and the impact that experience had on all of us.
I had a teacher, and she would say, "Do you know when you're in the presence of something beautiful?" And I had no idea of the profundity of the question. Platoon was one of those circumstances when you put together the audition, the boot camp, the filming, the relationships. Now I know when I'm in the presence of something beautiful.
To have left that experience and then come back here in June, and the summer hit was Top Gun, I just thought, well, we're fucked. Top Gun was glorifying war. What Oliver made was this film about horrible, horrible things happening, not glorious things. That wasn't Oliver's experience there. The glory that Oliver experienced was love and brotherhood, and that's the film he shot.
That brotherhood is the reason I'm narrating this film. The same reason we all wanted to be part of this passion project by our friend and fellow grunt, Paul Sanchez. Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, Oliver needed to get his film made. Hollywood is full of great scripts that never see the light of day. Oliver peddled The Platoon for over a decade without success.
I had just gotten into the production business, and a friend said, "Listen, do you know who Oliver Stone is?"
Oliver Stone for Midnight Express.
I said, "Sure, I know who Oliver is." He says, "Well, he has this script about Vietnam." And I ran up to my office, and I sat at my desk, and I couldn't believe what I was reading. I was literally sobbing. I had tears coming down my face. And Ann said to me, "What's wrong?" I said, "I had just read the greatest screenplay I've ever read. It's Academy Award time. We'll never get closer." And I called Oliver Stone. And I said, "Listen, I just read a script of yours. I want to make this movie." He then got caught up with Salvador, and I was trying to get Platoon financed. I met with the people that had financed Salvador. He was refusing to make 8 cuts in the movie. He's really digging in. And they said, "We're not getting any closer to another movie with Oliver unless he agrees to make the cuts." And I met with Oliver. He read it. He says, "Okay," and signed it. And that got the movie made.
I did a little over 20 years active duty in the United States Marine Corps. Served all over the world, including 3 tours in Vietnam, 1 tour in the Middle East in Beirut, Lebanon, 82, 83. When I retired from the Marine Corps, I really didn't know what to do with myself. I'd seen every military movie there was for obvious reasons. What I had seen pissed me off. It's not us, it's not combat, that's not war. That's Hollywood's pipe dream. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna fix this. It took me some chicanery, but I finally got his number, and I called. And I said, look, I know, and you know, that the only way to do this credibly is we've got to train those guys. He got it, because he's Oliver and he loves a left-handed approach, and because he knew what I was telling him was true. I'm gonna give you 33 actors. We're gonna shoot in the Philippines. I had to produce a trained rifle platoon.
I look at my life as BP before Platoon and AP after Platoon.
Tom Berenger, I think, definitely was the most successful and the most high-profile actor.
Be looking for Mr. Goodbar, my auspicious debut.
I was in a show at Kings Island in Cincinnati. I was Moosey and Rock Around the Clock.
Telemarketing. Yeah, it was telemarketing.
I just graduated. I was looking for something to do, and this was my first film.
I was doing commercials. I was auditioning for commercials. I wasn't getting a lot of commercials.
I had done the smash follow-up to Grizzly called Grizzly 2: The Predator. I got eaten by a giant bear.
I didn't feel like an old hand, let's put it that way. But next to almost everyone else, where it was their first film, I guess I felt a little more like an old hand than they did.
Got a scholarship from Stella Adler to go to New York City.
Eddie and the Cruisers.
And I got my first job, Hoosiers.
Banging around New York. I'd just gotten out of NYU in 1984.
I had been in a movie called Stranger in Paradise.
Before I got the job, I just joined this band.
I had made one other film before Platoon, and that was The Thing.
I was on unemployment, just having a good time.
And then The Big Chill.
Really not much of hardly anything professionally?
Platoon.
There was a project called The Platoon.
Originally, it was set to go with Dino De Laurentiis in like '84, and I went up to the Gulf Western building.
Many times the film got very close to getting done and didn't get done, and it was a long casting process, and everybody and his mother read for these roles over and over and over again.
But a lot of people don't realize is that my brother Emilio had gotten the part, the Cristiano part.
Huge desk, Oliver sitting behind it, and every single space was filled with stacks, I would say this high, of black and white photos.
2 years later, Oliver called up and said, McGinley, we're going to shoot the movie again. Do you want to come in and audition? I'm like, well, I got the role last time.
Oliver Stone is doing this film Platoon, and he's looking for, he has a list of like 8 actors that he's looking for. And it's just like, wow.
And I got the call from Oliver saying we're back on. I read in Backstage magazine about this audition for this film.
I'd like to play the Southern Sergeant. I don't know if that's what he was thinking.
I said, I'd like to get an audition for this film. They said, you know, you just have to leave a picture and resume. And I said, oh, really? Where are they auditioning? And for some reason, she told me the Empire Hotel. Walked in, nobody was sitting out front.
Oliver, he said you're too mannered. You're doing all this Tony Danza shit.
And Oliver offered me Sergeant O'Neill.
It was one line here, it was one line there. It was like, you know, it's like, we got kooks coming over the ridge.
I said, I don't see you on the list. And I just threw a shit fit. I said, you know, my fucking agent fucks up all the time. I'm so sick of it. You know what? Call my agent. I gave her a phony number. I said, you know, I got to get to the bottom of it. I can't take this. The second time this happened to me. He was like, hey, can you go get me a coffee? I was like, yeah, no problem, Mr. Stone. I ran out. I got him a coffee. And I was like, I think I might have a real shot at this part. And she said, all right, relax. Just do a monologue for me.
I told Mark, I said, listen, I'm going to do this low-budget independent film in the Philippines. It's the greatest script I've ever read. It's for no money, but when you read, and there's a juicy part.
Wait, Lieutenant? Nah. Wouldn't want to get raped by you guys. Gave it to me, called my agent. He got me in.
But this time, I'm auditioning for Oliver.
She said, you know what, come back tomorrow. I'd like you to meet the director.
And then when I finished, she goes, you know, I want you in my film. I just want you in my film. I came down and called my agent, told him I got this film, and he said, yeah, forget it. And just blew it off.
Every single agent at every agency went, don't go to this movie. It's not insured. They don't know what's going on.
Got called back. I lost 10 pounds. I flew to Los Angeles, and he said, great, you have the part, gain 20 pounds.
I brought in my 357 Magnum to the audition. The casting director freaked out. He's like, whoa, what the fuck is this? And I was like, shut up, sit down, relax. Oliver had like a big grin on his face, and I knew I had him. Like I knew I was in.
It's really because of To Live and Die in LA that he cast me, because he wanted to do the kind of casting against type, which is funny because To Live and Die in LA is a very cool movie, but I look at him, it looks like such a little kid trying to play tough.
Monologue, in my head I'm thinking, you did not ask me to prepare anything. This was just a conversation, make sure I didn't gain 50 pounds, and you already told me I was cast.
And I remember I kind of lost it. I don't remember much, but I wound up under his desk, and I remember looking up at Oliver, and his hand was stuck out, and he said, chill out, man.
So I thought I got the part of Raw, and I told my agent, like, yeah, I'm in, I got it. He told me I had it.
I know, that's cool. And I thought Raw was a cool part.
And then they go, well, no, you didn't get the part of Raw, you got the part of Tech.
Yeah, but you're doing Sal. And of course, I went to the script, and where the fuck is Sal? Where's Sal? Oh, there he is.
By Monday, I get a call saying, you know, would you like to come play? And it was my first, you know how it is when you get your first job.
I remember it was raining on a Monday, and I was on Fifth Avenue, and I'm like jumping in the street, and I didn't care how big the role was. And I called my aunt, who was like my muse, my confidant, and I said, "Guess what? I got a movie." She says, "Baby, great, that's wonderful." She said, "Where is it?" I said, "The Philippines." She hung up the phone on me.
Okay, I got the job. Then the war breaks out in the Philippines.
In 1986, Ferdinand Marcos lost the election, but he refused to relinquish power. The people revolted.
My plane was the last plane to arrive from anywhere before the airport got closed. I got picked up. I went to the Manila Garden Hotel. I took a nap, the first thing I did.
Standoff between rebellious military elements and Marcos loyalists began Saturday.
Woke up a little later, and I remember opening the curtains and looking down. There were tanks going down the street. Unbeknownst to me, the People Power Laban revolution started to happen. This is all going down. We obviously can't shoot here. They said, just sit tight. The film's probably canceled. We'll get you out when we can.
I flew from Savannah to LA and was going to make connection in the Philippines, and they went, "Oh no."
And I remember hitting the streets with Bob Richardson and some other people, and we went to the People Power barricade around Camp Aguinaldo, because what happened is some faction of the army kind of mutinied and said, we're not going to suppress the people.
General Fidel Ramos, leading the reformists, had decided on mutiny against President Marcos.
And then another faction, Marcos told to go and, arrest those guys.
But the trucks and armored personnel carriers were met with an amazing display.
People came and made a 1 million-person barrier around Camp Aguinaldo and basically said, you have to go through the 1 million of us to get to them. I think it put a lot of pressure on the four governments. They got him out of there, and, it was a big celebration. It was really special because these millions of Filipinos seeing a Westerner, they were like so happy because it was a feeling that, you're going to tell the world about this. And then I remember Alex Ho saying, I think we can get it back together. And we were back on.
Tom Berenger, Staff Sergeant Bob Barnes.
Saddle up! Lock and load!
John Glover, my character in Platoon was Sanderson.
You going on reports now?
I'm Tony Todd, and I was blessed to play the role of Sergeant Warren.
He's taken us this far, right? He'll take us the rest of the way. Mark Moses. I played Lieutenant Wolf in Platoon.
I gotta run. I'll catch you men later.
I'm Ivan Kane, and I played Tony Hoyt.
Go for it. Let's do the whole fucking village.
Hi, I'm Bob Orwig, and I was Gardner.
Can I show you a picture of Lucy Jean?
I'm Reggie Johnson, and I play Junior.
Fuck that hunky shit. Gotta give me some Motown jam.
Hi, I'm Johnny Depp, and I had the privilege of playing the role of Lerner.
Hi, I'm Corey Glover. I played Francis.
It ain't D-E-R-E, it's D-E-A-R.
I'm Chris Pedersen. I played Crawford.
It's O'Neill got a nose up the lieutenant's ass already.
Robert Rock Galati, Assistant Military Technical Advisor, and played Spec 4 Thomas Huffmeister.
Kevin Dillon, I played Bunny in Platoon.
Yeah, but I still like a piece of pussy once in a while.
Kevin Eshelman. Fuck! I played Morehouse.
My name is Willem Dafoe, Sergeant Elias.
I'm Captain Dale Dye, United States Marine Corps retired, and I was the military advisor on the platoon.
I'm James Terry McIlvain.
Goddamn right he does.
AKA Ace.
John C. McGinley, I played Sergeant O'Neill.
No.
Paul Sanchez, I played Doc in Platoon.
This is bad, man. Got bad vibes here.
David Neidorf, and I played Tech.
I ain't getting greased on this bush tonight, so you keep this sorry cheese dick off my ass.
My name is Keith David, and I played King in Platoon.
You gotta be rich in the first place to think like that.
Richard Edson, Sal.
Man, this is goof stuff. Let's get out of here.
Mark Ebenhock. I am one of the technical advisors for the platoon. Was an actor in it.
I'm Corky Ford. I played Manny Washington in the film Platoon.
I'm Charlie Sheen. I played Chris Taylor in Platoon.
I'm living in a funeral parlor at the time on Sullivan Street, a 5-story walk-up. And so I'm walking down the stairs, and in walks Cher. And I've got those goofy duffel bags or whatever we were allowed to take. I'm like, Cher, walking into my funeral parlor. And I'm going to do some low-budget piece of shit halfway around the world in revolution-torn Philippines. I'm like, I stepped out of a hit play. What am I doing?
It was not like, okay, my agents and my handlers and my superstar people will package this together. It's a bunch of like idiots from the street who like showed up and were in the right place at the right time. This time I'll get dumped on a plane to Manila. It's really how it happened.
Had to tell my girlfriend, had to tell my band members, had to tell my parents that I'm going away. I'm not coming back for like what I thought was going to be a month. Turns out to be 3 months.
The first time we all met was because everyone had to change planes in LA.
You guys were coming from New York.
Paul, McGinley, Ivan.
A bunch of us flew out of New York. We stopped in LA. We met a bunch of the other actors.
We started bonding right away in that bar, and then I think we felt pretty good when we got on the plane.
We sat around and just kind of drank, and then got on a plane for a long time.
There's either little Filipino families or us. 33 guys just pounding beers. You know, in my head, I thought, oh, I'll be looking over my script.
Because we were young, and we'd never been on like a 16-hour plane ride.
It was guys just tossing beers from the stewardess station.
We were taking drinks off of people's trays while they weren't looking.
David Nightoff, who ended up getting a blanket, like lying in the aisle. The air hostesses like kicking him out and telling him to move.
A few hours later, and like the flight all the way through, I think we felt really good by the time we eventually landed in Manila in the morning.
It was a cool plane ride, man.
Mom packed for you, didn't she?
She did, yeah. She did. She packed for me, and she sent a bunch of stuff ahead of me. What was it, 14 boxes? Because we'd been there during Apocalypse, and she knew that the stuff we might need.
We got off the plane. I remember the heat kind of hitting me in my face.
It was everything that my mom was worried about. You know, tanks going down the street, you know, armed guys with M16s all over the place.
So I'm sitting there thinking, what the motherfuck am I doing back here? And all those feelings that I remember so intensely. You know, as a child, I spent 8 months on the set of Apocalypse. I vowed never to return.
Shit. I'm still only in Saigon.
And what are the frickin' odds that I'd come back 10 years later with my own Vietnam film and narrate the damn thing? I think you'd sooner win the lottery in 5 states on the same night.
I don't think I can keep this up for a year, Grandma. I think I've made a big mistake coming here.
The warrior leading us through boot camp, Captain Dale Dye, USMC retired, was lovingly referred to as Dai Huy, which means captain in Vietnamese.
I've designed a 2-week program in which they lived in the jungles, in the hills. They lived exactly as we lived as young men in Vietnam.
So we all knew heading over there that there was going to be a boot camp, but I don't think any of us were really prepared for what was awaiting us.
Boot camp was designed to be shock and awe.
Those of us that couldn't cut it might be on a plane back to the States.
When you landed, it was a full military indoctrination, like, hey, welcome, how you doing? Good to see you. Now, boom, you ain't got no agents now.
He stormed in that room, right? And he started barking at us right away. And, you know, it was really intimidating.
Just grab your toothbrush. That's the only thing you're going to need. We're like, uh-oh.
Myself, Galati, and Drew were the drill instructors, but we were the dogs. We had to put the fear of God into you guys.
Did you know once we got out there, we were just staying there?
I had no idea.
I didn't either. I thought we were going to, like, you know, take a look and, you know, maybe you know, stake out our spot and then go back.
So everybody gets off the bus right in the bushy tail, then the yelling and screaming starts.
Once we got there, it was on.
So, all right, gonna dig a fighting hole. Wrong place, dig a fighting hole here.
We had to dig our own freaking holes.
The dirt was like supercrete.
We all had to dig these 4 or 5 foot berms in front of where we were sleeping.
So I walked up to Stan White and I said, what do I do about this? And he looked at my hand, he said, those blisters? I said, yeah. And he grabbed them and he smashed them. And I'm like, yeah!
You'd look over look over at dudes and be like blisters everywhere, man, and bursting.
They said, well, you're still alive, aren't you? And I said, yeah. He said, I just rub a little dirt in it and it'll be okay.
I wanted to reduce them to the lowest common denominator, grind them down, tire them out, until the only thing on their mind was, how do I get away from that crazy white-haired bastard? We humped heavy weight, no styrofoam.
They gave us real equipment. I mean, it was heavy, you know, we had to walk 25 clicks a day. We get issued weapons and shit, you know, it's like, oh, this is real. I mean, oh my God.
And that's when it felt for the first time real, and it felt good. Like, you know, this is gonna be really fun.
Learning how to clean our weapons, learning how to shoot the weapons, these sort of things. We were with soldiers that were teaching us how to do soldier things.
I can teach a monkey how to carry a weapon and wear his gear and wear his uniform. Where I wanted to go was inside their minds and inside their guts. The way to survive this was to learn to rely on each other. If you could do that, you would then begin to understand the relationships that men in combat have. They love each other, and it's that kind of love that I had to teach. We always addressed each other by our cast names, and I insisted on that throughout the run of the film. In fact, it's happening still today.
For 2 weeks, you weren't allowed to be called your name, which Stanislavski would have loved it. And it was genius in retrospect.
Everybody got into their characters, and it seemed to gel right away.
You don't get that kind of luxury every day.
During training, we had 2 new guys come in, Sal and Corky.
We were late, Corky and I. We hear this noise, like, thump, 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 thump. We look up the street, and there's a bunch of soldiers, all decked out, looking like, these are some badass dudes. Who the hell are these guys? And then I realized, this is us. I was like, how did these guys get so good, looking so good and authentic so quick?
I only fed them twice a day if they didn't piss me off. If they pissed me off that day, they only ate once a day.
Yeah, I definitely lost like 20 pounds for sure.
They were eating military rations.
Those MREs. The one that I liked the best was some kind of turkey thing that looked like brains or something, but it tasted okay. The rest of it, I didn't want no part of.
Meals ready to eat, MREs, they're, how should we say?
Meals ready to throw up. Those, I hated that fucking food.
The bean component was that was just bad luck.
The first time you eat those MRIs, you swear you'll never eat it again. And you'd rather eat dirt than these MRIs.
So everybody lost a lot of weight.
Nobody likes a dehydrated beef patty. It was the worst. However, Johnny Depp would end up wanting to get that because I taught Johnny how to make a cheeseburger out of it.
You want a cheeseburger, you want to do this or that. I mean, they found out ways to mix these things. And
But then a couple days later, they start tasting really good. It's like, they're full of chemicals, and they taste like they're worse than dirt.
On the set, where they have fish heads and rice and a garlic sauce, where the actors are like, we can't eat this, give us an MRE, you know you did something right when they're asking for MREs.
there's a predetermined result that they'd like from those MREs.
Constipates you beyond comprehension. So for most of us out there, the first 3, 4, even 5 days, nobody went to the bathroom.
It's trying to persuade you to not wander out in the middle of the night.
What I thought was a giant root that I was poised over. It began to slide and slither. My first movement was on top of a giant constrictor. That happened.
We had all the Marine guys around us, and they were no joke. These guys were hardcore.
Put us through the ringer, you know?
I mean, it was thrilling. To me, there was nothing better than that. I mean, now, okay, there's the idea of it, and then there's the reality of it.
You slept 2 hours on, 2 hours off.
Person would have to be awake and look around, and the other person could sleep.
I would push my my watch ahead a half an hour, and then wake dude up and say, "Come on, man, you're up. It's your turn." And he'd say, "No, there's no way." And I'd be like, "Check the watch, brother."
This is where I learned how to sleep standing up. Yeah.
So you were up pretty much all night.
My theory was they need to know what tired is.
It wasn't like you had to make some effort to think about what it might have been like for those guys at night when you're on watch. Because at night, you were on watch.
We were seriously sleep deprived.
They would keep us on our toes.
Drew Clark, Eben Hawk, and I would move around, and we would get into positions to attack.
I'm in my foxhole, and I'm just trying to keep my eyes open. It's got to be like 3 o'clock in the morning.
During the attacks, we would fire blanks at these guys. Eve DeBono would set up explosives to enhance the experience. They're trying to fire, and they've got weapons on safety, and Dale's running up and down the line, "Jerry, the man can't fire over here!" And they are just panicking. They have no clue what to do.
Oh, this sucks. This sucks. This sucks.
We're throwing things at them, and we're breaching lines.
Come on, you gotta go, we're being bombed. What's going on here? You know?
Shit just started blowing up, man. I mean, shit was just blowing up.
It was like, it sounded like the real thing, and the lights going off.
About 15 feet from Charlie Sheen.
I was on patrol with Bunny, and we heard some rustling or some noise out in the bush.
As I'm crawling up and I'm real quiet, he's going, "Psh, I think I hear something. I think I hear something."
I was like, "Hold on. The fuck was that?"
And you can see the silhouette of Charlie turned sideways, like that with his rifle. Opening up with an AK-47, and the muzzle flash is coming off these full-loaded blanks. And I remember seeing Charlie's face as it's strobing with the muzzle flashes, and his eyes went from normal to shh.
I was not far from Charlie, and the next thing I knew,
Some guy got his balls like scorched by an explosion because he was walking over it when it went off.
Sheen got stopped on a dime.
I got hit in the balls with a smoke grenade.
That came in from like St. Louis. And I sort of heard this involuntary, inhumane noise. Oh, you know, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. I'm hit. I'm hit.
I was so mad that I just emptied every magazine I had on me. Just screaming, "Die, motherfuckers," you know? Just fucking snapped.
I jumped into the hole with Ivan Kane and Charlie Sheen.
So he's like, "Give me a mag, give me a mag."
He pulls out a copy of Time magazine.
And he claims to this day that I handed him a magazine, which was bullshit.
Daiwi snuck up on me and put something to my neck and said, "You're dead."
Bang, learner. You're dead. Daiwi. That was an embarrassing moment, man.
I was a big fan of Daiwi's. I was kind of gung-ho and a true believer.
He cared enough to make us just miserable enough. But, oh yeah, I'm gonna fuck with you. I'm gonna try to make you fuck up, because I gotta teach you not to fuck up.
He was just a no bullshit kind of guy. He didn't coddle us. He didn't treat us like actors.
I remember I took this canteen and I filled it up with water in the stream because it was running stream.
You know, it's 110 degrees. They give us little salt tabs.
And I treated with some pills. And then we went upstream and we saw this big carcass of a bloated water buffalo, like, you know, dead for like 2 weeks, like it was rotting corpse. And I thought, man, I just got my water from, and I thought, well, I'm okay because the pills.
We didn't think anything of it. We kept hiking.
I wasn't okay.
I'm told Willem's not feeling well. I go to him. His fatigues are drenched, and he's just shaking and shivering in a ball. And I touch him, and he's ice cold.
I went into like a fever, and I remember sweating through things.
I mean, he looks like death. He looked like he lost 10 pounds that night.
I have this thing called Nux vomica.
Can I get you a couple aspirin? I don't know what I'm going to do.
He was in bad shape, you know, and I kind of thrust just a batch of shit at him. And I came back, and he's kind of leaned up against this thing, you know, and he's more pale than liver die in L.A.
I don't remember, but I remember being really taken care of.
And I look over, and there's a puddle of puke, right? And in the puke are all these, like, half-dissolved little white pills.
I go over to Daiwi and I say, listen, Willem has a really high fever. He looks like he's gonna die. I don't know what to do. Daiwi looks at me and he goes, do your best. We're hours away from any kind of medical facilities, and we've got a job to do.
I never really investigated what it was, but that was intense.
I saw grown men weep because what Dale and Oliver did was to strip us down, to get rid of all that New York and LA artifice.
Like, no, we weren't actors doing boot camp. We were real people doing this training.
When you live in a dirt hole in the jungle for 2-3 weeks, you get a little bored and weird. Flash did speak a lick of English. I mean, the dude would say, hello. He was like a truck driver in Nigeria or something, and they cast him. Suddenly he's in the jungle with a bunch of 30 other guys. I started teaching him English. Repeat after me. Eat. Eat. My. Shorts. Shorts. Dickhead. Dickhead. I said, no, put it all together. I was lucky enough to be near when he would, give that salutation to the captain. Just this pure, innocent, in the kindest eyes. He might show dickhead. Daiwi's like, what was that? He learned it well. He used it a lot.
Toward the end of the 2 weeks, he started to say, you guys are beginning to look and act like a rifle platoon.
The present was we were allowed to ascend down a wall, a 2.5-story wall. We were allowed to rappel down the wall.
FD, follow directions. You're standing, over 60 feet.
And I remember, like, kind of just tiptoeing. Dude, that thing was swaying in the breeze. You hear everything creaking.
You're not going up there to fuck around. I mean, this ain't no time to be nothing but follow directions.
So I remember kind of just like taking like a few steps down the damn thing, just like 1, 2, 3, and then he kept saying, come on, Taylor, bounce, push off, slide, bounce, And I remember just stopping and being like halfway down, and I looked up at him and I said, sir, the bouncing thing's not gonna happen. That's a fucking direct quote.
We had this final exercise where we were supposed to apply all the things we learned.
And I had 2 of the squads, and Elias, Willem Dafoe, had 1, and we're supposed to meet up.
The idea was we were gonna converge on a North Vietnamese ammunition dump. And there was a farmhouse on the map, and there were different routes to get there.
We were supposed to go from point A to point B.
And one of the weakest things for everybody was land navigation.
We're gonna go off here to the left. East on the maps or something, west, whatever.
And one group went one way and another group went the other way, and they were lost.
And it became clear we had no idea where we were.
And we just wandering around.
And this jackass has to read a map in the middle of this triple canopy jungle.
He didn't know what the hell he was doing. So he was like, why do you think I'm playing? This is a map. I had like 2 days to learn how to read a map.
Mark Moses, the LT, was perfect.
He totally got us ass fucking lost.
Which every time he had an opportunity to, he'd get us lost. He was very proud of that he never found whatever we were looking for. He never found it.
Yeah, it was a disaster.
We lost radio contact. Gunny was with us, and Daiwi was with the other side.
And Dale's freaking out. Where the hell is everybody? Jesus Christ, we gotta find him. It's getting dark.
What's the delay up on point? You having compass trouble again, Wolf?
Couldn't find this place. Everyone was getting hot. Everyone had drank all their water, and then we got to a cliff. I remember climbing up, and I found a way that was clear enough to get out. Up a rock wall, about 40 feet tall. Climb up the cliff. You guys had learned to rappel. So steep, we could have been killed.
I'm climbing it, getting weaker and tired, and I get about 5 foot from the top. I'm like, oh shit, I'm stuck. And Mark Ebenhock found me stuck on the side of the wall. And he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I'm not so sure I'm okay or not." And he actually climbed up, took my weapon to the top. And he said, "Oh, you can do this. You can make it." And I made that last 5 foot.
And he actually was really responsible for me being here today, because I think he saved my life. He saved all our lives.
So now we get up to the top of this area, and we thought, okay, we're in a clearing, we're good. We're gonna bivouac here for the night.
We don't have anything to eat because we didn't plan on being gone for the night. So guys are hungry. Guys have drained all the water in their canteen, so they're totally thirsty.
It was only supposed to be a day trip. It was not supposed to be an overnighter, so you guys weren't ready for it.
I saw a cow.
And they're going, hell yeah, there's beef. Let's light a fire. Let's go kill the damn thing. Let's go eat it. And it's like, no.
If I just hit it, like right behind the head.
Or you leave the damn bowl alone.
We found that farm.
Can we grab these pineapples? It's like, dude, you ain't got nothing else to eat. There ain't no farmer around here.
So there was a little bit of a raid on the pineapples and bananas.
We were all so hungry and so out of water that people gorged themselves on pineapples, and to a man, everyone got these horrible lesions in their mouths.
If they can't get the coconuts down, you might as well bring the fucking tree down. Screw it.
Yeah, but then we chopped them down.
A couple guys took a whack at that thing with a machete. It took about an hour.
Pulling the tree down as it flipped over, I remember.
So you built a fire. And then it was like campfire girls that night. All the fun stories, because then all the bitching stopped. You were fat, dumb, and happy.
It was sort of like an adventure away from Dale died. We didn't have to go out that night. We could actually sleep. We had a fire, a bonfire, so we had kind of a good time.
I thought that was the moment where everything turned. Probably, for my money, the most fun, and the most that I learned in the training camp. Rock was sent by Daiwi to reconnect with us. Gunny made us march in really proud and really strong.
Stan stopped us and said, "We're going to march in there, and we're going to march in there like men."
The other half of the platoon came out to greet us and welcome us back and ask us if we wanted anything to drink, and we were like, fuck no.
Dale Dye told me they gave me the wrong coordinates on purpose.
Liar.
And I'll stay with that story. Yeah, we had our graduation, and a lot of it's a little foggy.
We were rewarded with copious amounts of
moonshine, and it was like overproof, whatever it was. You could start fires.
We had the drink.
Whatever that coconut rum was, and we were howling at the moon.
We heard it was coconut wine.
It was supposed to be good because it had a little bit of coconut in it or some shit. It wasn't. It was lighter fluid.
It was pretty smooth for 200 proof. It was pretty smooth.
Lombanog.
Yeah, Lombanog.
Lombanog?
Ah, yeah, Lombanog.
Lombanog. It was Lombanog, and it was pretty much moonshine.
It was essentially moonshine, man. It was moonshine.
Lombanog. Shit. I'm still only drinking Lombanog.
People woke up the next day like out of comas.
We had to wake up really early in the morning. It was like 4.
A couple of guys were lifted into the truck.
It was such a throbbing gristle in the skull and confusion.
And then all of a sudden they faked us out and said we're going to go shoot that first scene, just walking to the jungle.
There was no way to get rid of the hangover because we couldn't get our mitts on the Lombanog anymore.
We're looking bad because we're like, dirty, because we hadn't changed in 2 weeks. People looked at us and they were kind of horrified. And I remember, good, you should be horrified.
They went from there just feeling miserable. So we looked perfect.
Now we're going to something that might look like a hotel, and we'll start this thing tomorrow. Bullshit.
And then Oliver, to his eternal credit, woke everybody up, and we had to walk around along this blue.
And it's the first time in the movie that any of us were actually on camera in that condition.
What I was told was the kids are going to walk in from boot camp, and we're going to roll camera.
But everyone had that look because nobody gave a shit about the movie because we were all sick.
When I brought them down out of the jungle, and they were looking rugged and they were looking ragged, Oliver looked at me and he said, "Yeah, I think so. I think that's them.
We became a rifle platoon somehow.
When the guys were coming out of the jungle, all of you looked like you'd been in war for about a year, and which is exactly the way Oliver wanted you. He wanted you mean. You were hating him for doing this to you, but he got that look.
So we started to sense right there and then Oliver's manipulation.
Oliver, as we have all got to know and love him, is not easy.
Because he thrives on confrontation. You know, wants to upset you.
I've done 6 films with Oliver. Oliver doesn't direct by committee. It is a quasi-collaboration, but it's Oliver's movie and it's Oliver's vision.
Oliver can be chaotic when he directs. He feeds off of that sort of thing. I understood it. I've served with commanding officers who are like that.
He wore his experiences on his sleeve. I mean, I felt like there was a part of him that was still in the jungle.
He's crazy genius, has that look in his eye and that smile that you have no idea what the fuck is really going on in there.
I was on point, and I was rigged up with just a zillion squibs. In my hand, I have the deal that shoots off the squibs. Charlie comes in and carries me. There was the kind of, you know, oh my God, I'm dying scene. Please tell my mother that I, you know, the gurgle gets through about 2.5 lines. Cut. Bullshit. Do it again. All right. Back in, you know, just laying there on the ground. Rain, blood. He's working on me. Charlie's talking to me. Please tell my mom. Cut. Bullshit. Fucking bullshit. And he hit me with that about 7 times, man. You're full of shit. You're fucking lying. From that moment on, I would avoid any conversation with Stone that, you know, that involved anything more than action or cut.
He's a genius. A dark, evil genius. At whatever cost, he's going to get what he wants, what he's after. And that's great if you're sitting in a movie theater looking at a 40-foot screen. But when you're on the opposite end of that,
You know, you gotta be selective. You gotta treat different actors different ways because you gotta have some sort of intuition about how they're gonna respond.
During the film, I didn't really like Oliver very much. I felt he was kind of distant. He liked, and I think this is the way he makes films, he likes to kind of stir shit up, like create crises and stress, and then he shoots that.
I knew what he was doing, but it was, I felt it was unnecessary.
Doc Sanchez, in that head hooch, where the line was, let military justice do the job on him. We did 30-something freaking takes of it.
Eye for an eye.
I say let military justice do the job on him.
It was just Oliver being Oliver. And Doc would try it different ways, and he'd get more pissed, and it was just Oliver fucking with Doc.
I'm alone in that giant pool, just swimming laps. And all of a sudden, I see these feet. It's Oliver. He goes, what are you doing? I go, what do you mean, what am I doing? I'm working out. I'm swimming lap. He says, are you coming out today, tonight? I go, well, I'm not really working. He goes, yeah, but you're coming out, aren't you? Show a little support to the guys. Then I get there, and I'm watching a scene. I don't know, it's like Lieutenant Wolf and Ra, Francesco.
I want you to take those 2 holes right there and there. You're tying it off with Barnes up here, King down there.
And I'm watching the scene back behind the camera, and he turns around and goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm watching the scene. He says, you're making them nervous. I go, what? You're staring at him. I go, I'm watching the scene. You told me to come. Guy, back off. Get over there. This is Oliver.
The way he would yell.
Hey, it's not working. You know, this you know, the scene is flat. What's the matter with you? You're the fucking actor. You know, I mean.
You know, I don't think people know how dramatic he can be. Confrontational, dramatic, and sets up antagonism wherever he goes.
I did a scene, and when it was done, he just And he just dropped his eyes and shook his head and turned and walked away. When you're a young kid, as you first film, and man, all you want to do is please. And he knows that. When you don't know that that's just a setup, because the next scene you do, 2 days later, where you break down, that's 48 hours of thinking you're the biggest asshole on this planet.
He treated us like we were suddenly the worst casting choice. I just thought, well, God damn it, man. There's such a smoother and cooler way to get results.
Oliver loved to fuck around with the actors, push them around, bully them, if you will.
So there was one day I came to set prepared for what was on the call sheet, and there was a new scene that had been added.
Ace had talking to Oliver saying, I've written my monologue, I've got this thing, and you know, you can shoot it, we can just get it. Oliver shot it, and Bob Richardson operated.
And so Oliver said, I'm gonna need you in the background of this shot. What am I doing? You're carrying water buckets back and forth. I said, the same water buckets? He said, no, if you exit frame, we'll think that you loaded up new ones, then you're taking those back over. And I said, but shouldn't the thing be empty on the way back? He says, don't worry about it.
Oliver would go, you'd cut him, at a certain point, kill his confidence. And he'd go, don't waste my fucking time, man, just go. Let's do it again. Jesus fucking Christ,
They do about 15 takes, and I'm back there, and, I'm just giving it my all. And he wrapped the scene, and he was already off to the next location, and I caught up with him, and I said, hey, man, what was that all about?
I'm talking to Boost. I said, we got some stuff out of the guy. There's stuff in there. What's he fucking? And he goes, there's no film in the camera, man. There's no film in the camera.
And he did this just as an exercise in torture. Yeah, it was like psych warfare,
Sometimes it happens to people that can't take it, and then it gets ugly.
In that village, Berenger's screaming at
What about the fucking rice and the weapons? Who they
the
for?
man and the woman. I'm interpreting.
Oliver's standing back there, and she's not crying. He wants real tears.
She couldn't have been more than 9. Oliver's strategy into bringing real tears to the little girl's face was a bit much.
Oliver yelling at us is one thing.
He raised his voice, and it went on for far longer than it needed to. These people aren't actors. These people aren't actors. Sergeant Barzabal, who had been involved quite a lot in our training camp, standing there, he was with the Philippine Constabulary Police. The dude he could handle himself very well. He just reached in for his weapon and was like, he was coming out, and it was moving forward, and I went, oh fuck, and I put my arms on his wrist. You came over, you were like, whoa, 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 calm down, everybody calm down, it's okay. And then Barzabal explained to us what I just witnessed, I will never see again. When you come after a little girl like that, the Philippines is a very big place. People disappear here all the time, That was a very heated, scary fucking moment, though, because he wasn't joking, man. That was bad. I'll never forget it. So I was going to the restroom, and I saw, at the edge of the bar, there's a restaurant. I saw Oliver and Alex Ho. I literally thought, this is it. I will make my statement here and now. I was wasted. So I climb up on this marble banister, and I got behind Oliver's table. There was a curtain right here. Oliver's head's there. So I unzipped the old fly and pulled out the old friend, and was about ready to, I was gonna urinate on Oliver. And history will absolve me. Challenge after challenge after challenge, word after word after word, and you go, Oh, I'll get you, man. I'll get you. And that was my moment. I seen it. I was about to take it. And I felt this violent, like, tug on the back of my shirt. We fell flat on the ground. And it was the first AD, H. Gordon Booz. And he says, "Are you out of your fucking mind? What are you doing?" I'm gonna piss on his fucking head. No!
Oliver chose each of us for our commitment and our desire. He led us, and willingly we followed. We didn't always appreciate his methods, but we gave his film everything we had because we believed in him and his vision.
Even Tom had to surrender to Oliver's vision, and it worked.
The power of that kind of authenticity. Suddenly, we didn't have to act anymore. One of the things that I think is a mark of a good director is putting your actors under the circumstances to which you just have to now find the behavior. So you don't have to act.
To jump into where Oliver had been for 2 tours in Vietnam, the actors were not strained to take that leap. And so people were in.
I think he thought the material deserved it and they should be operating from a place where they aren't too in their stuff.
Oliver was full of passion to make this movie.
I mean, he desperately wanted to tell this story, and he had worked for 10 years to get this story told and couldn't do it. And here was our only opportunity. And neither one of us wanted to strike out with this because it represented the experience we'd had in Southeast Asia.
It did force me to really dig a little deeper.
The one thing he did that was amazing, made us feel like we were a platoon. That's why we formed such a brotherhood that 30 years later is still there.
He gave me my first job ever in film.
I will always owe Oliver Stone, and I'll always thank him and love him for that.
The night before our first day of scenes with actual dialogue, a piece of paper was slipped under my door. It turns out it was a call sheet. I've never seen a call sheet before. He says, "Oh, I'll put it in my pocket. We might need it tomorrow." Second AD says, "Okay, so we're going to go, you got about 5 minutes left at breakfast, then we're going to go rehearse and shoot." And I said, "What? What the fuck are we going to shoot?" And I was starting to go in a panic.
I didn't know this at the time. It was your first day, and I think your first time ever speaking on film.
So we start to do the scene, and Charlie collapses.
I get covered in ants. You know, I'm bug phobic like a bitch. They don't just like stay on your neck. They start on your neck and wind up everywhere else.
He's really uncomfortable. He slams down. Willem comes over to him, says, "Hey, you okay?" I come over. All the guys are marching behind us. It's 110 degrees heat. "Oh, this is fine. You know, Charlie, this is fine." See, the red ants are bad, but the black ants are the what? Cut. I went, "Oh, please don't be me. Please don't be me. I think Willem fucked up. I hope Willem fucked up." And Oliver goes, "Susie, what's the line?" She goes, "Black ants are bad, but red..." "Yeah, I thought so. The red ants are the worst." Oh my! So everybody's like, everybody in the background grumbles.
Because there's a line about, you know, red ants and black ants, and I could see you were starting to panic behind it.
Goes back to first positions. Okay. Charlie goes down again. Da-da-da. And I come in, and red ants are bad, but black ants are cut.
I thought, okay, I get the nerves, but he's either dyslexic or colorblind.
Everybody like, "Oh my God, it's one line."
I got ants all over my neck.
It felt like we were there for a day and a half.
I got some fucking red ants. Quite some killers.
Instead of correcting me, she crossed out the lines after a while and just put in whatever I said. She wrote it into the script. "That's your new line." And Oliver looked over to Suze. "Is that it?" She goes, "Yep." "Okay, moving on."
I get an email, and it's yourself. It's Paul, and he's reaching out to contribute to this very documentary. And I wrote back, "Red ants, black ants, blue ants." Then it says XOXC. That's so emblematic of how deep this stuff got into our DNA. We hadn't spoken for easily a decade. Not for any reasons of whatever, just because, you know, people's lives go different ways. But as soon as I got that, I wrote you back. And the first thing I thought of was the various colors of those ants. Happy to help.
I had a beautiful role because he's kind of a charismatic, sensitive guy, and he dies so tragically, which was, you know, it's a fantastic shot. It's these helicopters. It was physical. It was complicated. It was quite dramatic shot. But Tom as Barnes was inspired casting. He's the performance of the movie. And he was able to contact some sort of rage and bitter disappointment that really ran deep.
Out here, you belong to me. Now move!
Tom is fantastic in that role.
I was the first to talk and the first to die. I didn't live long, but I had good screen time. My line was, oh man. Oh, man. Is that what I think it is?
Berenger just came up with that phone and just, I think actually he knocked the helmet off with the telephone. But a few times it just blew off by itself. That's how strong those explosions were. And they were frightening. You didn't have to do much acting, sort of reacting.
We were working with those huge helicopters that had no doors.
I just remember being thrown on that chopper, and it took off, and it immediately went sideways. You don't know where a camera is, man. There may be one in the chopper. You don't know, so you just keep going. You just keep going.
And we had to keep flying around in circles.
The ground is there now, and I don't remember my gurney being especially roped in or anything.
And I'm wounded at that point, and I don't know about you, but I'm holding on to something because I'm not going to go through all this and not get in the final cut.
My favorite in the film would be the hooch scene.
I am reality.
Because it is a great piece of theater.
Kill me.
What are you doing? And I said, this is my entrance. He said, yeah, but you think you, like, maybe come around the corner?
I say we frag that fucker tonight.
If they're all in there talking about Elias being killed, and I set Elias up for this.
You're wrong, man. Any way you cut it, Barnes is a fucking murderer.
You don't see me. You hear me. And he goes, what do you mean?
Talking about killing?
They look around, and I'm sitting down there in a little gook squat, smoking a cigarette and drinking a bottle of Jack Daniels. How long has he been there?
Y'all experts.
How much did he hear?
Y'all know about killing? Well, I'd like to hear about it, potheads.
You know, you hit that point where anything you do is right for the character.
It was like the first night of the final siege, you know, and you know, me and Corey are stuck in that foxhole when it all goes to shit. I missed a mark or overshot something, and I was too close to one of the pots, you know, for the bombs, and the shit went off right here. I got knocked out, thrown against the thing, and I think that shot's in the movie because I was basically drooling and you know, dizzy eyes, and I also sprained my ankle. It was a fucking bad night, and so Captain Dye rolls up and he, you know, shakes out a cigarette and he says, "Taylor, it's moments like these why we continue to smoke."
It was the Tet offensive at the end of the movie, and Doc and the LT and myself were all featured in this one shot. Bombs going off all over the place. For me, it was an overwhelming experience to shoot that night.
And don't forget, 40 bombs. They put the little yellow flags in so crew and camera knew where those bombs were. And then just before filming, they pulled the flags out, and you have 125 extras at the top of that hill, gonna have to run down in the dark. Didn't know where the bombs were.
I mean, it was something. It was such a huge, huge shot. It was one of the highlights for me.
Tom Cruise, he'd done a film called Taps. So Tom's last moment in Taps before the tank just riddles the shit out of him.
Beautiful, man! Beautiful!
That's where I got that thing in the foxhole at the very end. I just stole it from Tom.
In the script, it was Sal who was supposed to be blown up.
Man, this is goose stuff. Let's get out of here. No, Sal, this is important.
Which made sense. He picked up the metal box. And I was like, man. It's like, I can't get respect around here no matter what. But, so I was really, like, pissed off.
They took my arm and pinned it behind my back, and then they took what was left out and they stuck a piece of, like, thing on there to make it look like my arm was blown, and same with the other. So it was a long time. It was probably from 8 till about noon we took to do the makeup.
But then I saw how much work. He was like 4 hours preparing for that thing, and I was like, oh, just as well.
It's probably 15 seconds on film, but it looks pretty well.
My favorite scene would be the scene where I bashed the guy's head open.
When Bunny and I go into the hut that day and discover the handicapped kid, something snaps, something completely snaps. And Bunny did things that were brutally unsound.
They kept saying, get it as close as you can, get it as close as you can. One time, I actually accidentally hit him with a gun, which they used on film.
Because at that point, we were so freaking tired and so just addled.
I felt bad, and I felt like the guy didn't understand acting. He didn't even know how to know what the camera was. So he didn't know. He was looking at me like it was all real, and it was really, really hard to do.
At that point, you know, it was just reaction and raw emotion. I felt terrible for that kid.
Felt awful about that.
I always carried all my per diem on me.
Me and Charlie took our per diem, we pulled it together, and we gave it to the kid so that he could get his cataracts fixed.
That same day, shot the scene where I come in and break up the rape.
My character was supposed to be the one raping.
Get out of here! The fuck off! Don't do it! Don't do it!
My mom said, please don't do that.
Don't fucking get it, do you, man? You just don't fucking get it. It's okay.
I was young and didn't want to upset my mom.
If I could compare one day to the hundreds that Dad had in Apocalypse, that's the one day. Let's just say that there was a lot to drink away in the bar that night.
Once we got out there, it was shot so kind of unconventionally that you had no sense of anything outside of that world. That was one of the beauties of it. We left Hollywood so far behind.
You know, we would drive the trucks, they only went so far into the jungle, and then we had to hike 30, 40 minutes.
Actors were picking up camera cases and humping them in, and they didn't give it a second thought. Everybody wanted to be there, and everybody carried their own weight.
We had gone down to Manila, and we had found actual Vietnamese refugees who would play these roles. What we didn't realize is that when we got them all together, they would begin speaking Vietnamese. Oliver actually had to walk off the set, and he was sitting out on the dike of a rice paddy. And I shook my head because it was really getting to me. And finally, I just went out and sat down next to him. We didn't say a word because both of us at that moment were back in Vietnam.
In making the movie, yes, we're actors, but there were none of the trailers, there were none of the makeup conventions. And we were in a foreign area, and a lot of these guys had never even been out of the country.
My dressing room, my pot, my helmet. I'm sitting on my dressing room in the jungle.
So it was very exotic. There were so many parallels. And of course, I'm not saying that makes us, I'm saying maybe it invites us to pretend better, not makes us understand better necessarily.
I remember teaching you to handle a sucking chest wound. And, you know, you kept wanting to add things. And I said, Doc, stop it. You're a medic. You've seen this before. You know that this one is probably not going to make it. You can talk to him. You can try to keep him conscious, try to keep him breathing, but you probably can't save him. I knew that you would do the right thing with the battle dressings and so on and so forth. What I didn't expect was the emotion that got to you. And I saw it. And I said, you know, that's not acting.
It's so fucking hot, and you are so tired, and then people are harassing you, and we just saw it a little bit. And you know what? Like, I'm pissed. I'm thinking, like, any motherfucking gook that comes in my path, I'm gonna light your fucking ass up. Fuck you, I don't care. And I thought that is how they felt, and that was real for us in that moment.
We were doing the first night ambush, where you see two NVA soldiers come out of the fog and make that little signal about come ahead. I always kept an M16 loaded with blank ammunition next to the camera because Oliver would every once in a while want me to fire the thing and, you know, heat things up a bit. So I was kind of leaning on the muzzle of the rifle next to while all the fog was settling, and Oliver said, action. And those NVA came up and did this, and I came awake and looked at them.
Dale, in an eighth of a second, went, I mean, because he was just standing there, just sort of spacing out, you know, and he just went,
you know, I was going to fire on him.
It was one of the heaviest things I've ever seen, you know.
Puerto Azul was this resort, and they had a lounge bar.
Well, we were just kind of salty at the end of the day when we got off the set.
We were filming for 12 hours, and these really intense scenes. We'd come back looking like hell.
No one would go to their room. Everyone would forget how bloody you were, caked in dirt or whatever. Forget a shower. We all went straight to the bar.
At the end of the day, we all ride in the bar together.
Full fatigues, blood.
We don't care. We own this place.
We needed a break. We needed a real sort of release from that sort of thing. So the lounge at Puerto Azul was what we needed.
That bar was like, it was like the greatest place in the world. It was a real gathering spot for us where we sought refuge.
We all knew that binge drinking was dangerous, you know, so if you kept your blood alcohol level to a certain point, it was a whole lot easier to deal with shit.
But it really did help. It helped a lot.
That was our moment. Just, it didn't matter if you know, the later we stayed, the less sleep we got. It wasn't, you know, sleep, schmeep.
I think we were all pretty inebriated. I remember glasses breaking, being chucked at the bar.
And there was this cover band basically singing pop tunes phonetically. They didn't speak any English. They were saying like, we built this city. There was a point where it was like, hey, you play guitar, you play the drums.
We overtook there's a little bandstand where the local band played.
The band would take a break and we'd pick up their instruments.
The platoon band consisted of the following: Johnny Depp, lead guitar; Corey Glover, vocals; John Glover, vocals, rhythm guitar; Chris Pedersen, bass; and Richard Edson on the drums.
Playing, you know, old blues covers and old like soul songs and entertaining ourselves.
We just said, hey, can we borrow your instruments? And then that was the first night. Then the second night was like, hey, we're taking your instruments. And then after that, it was like, don't even come near the stage.
For four guys that had never played together, they were fabulous.
Depp and John Glover were some amazing guitar players. And they were playing some of this stuff and it was sounding really, really good.
I wasn't good enough to make the band. I played the drums back then.
These are really talented musicians.
It was hard to break into the band. They were very tight. It was a really good band. I mean, amazing.
Still didn't really consider the idea of myself as an actor. I was still a musician as far as I was concerned, you know.
And I remember Johnny kept saying, I don't want to be an actor. I want to be a musician. And look at him now.
It became a thing. When we came to the bar, the manager's like, okay, you go on in 10 minutes. What?
I'm not even sure those dudes ever came back. They just left their instruments.
I don't know how much I'd pay today to have just one night of that back. But the better it was, and as good as it got, I started leaving.
What you didn't really anticipate is, as certain characters in the movie died, they were sent home.
You had 33 people in this bar every night.
And one by one, throughout the course of shooting, there would be one less guy at the bar.
When you got killed in the movie, you left the next day. It's a practical enough thing, but it had a weird effect because you got close to these guys and then they got killed and then they were gone.
The NVA comes in and Bob Orwig, I think, stands up and his character gets a sucking chest wound and he's dead. Next day, he's on a plane out.
We got Bob on the airplane and sent him home. And Berenger looked at me and he said, "Oh, that feels weird, doesn't it?" I said, "Yeah, it feels like we just lost one."
He's not dead in real life, but it felt like that because they were just suddenly gone.
Manny! The whole scene about looking for Manny, he's gone. And you feel that loss. Corky was a good friend like I went through boot with him. I was having a good time with him.
Everybody ended up in the bar of the hotel that night, drinking San Miguel beer and mourning the fact that we had lost one of ours. Now, he was fine. He was on an airplane going home, but not to us. To us, we had lost one of them. That was another clue that we had really done something special.
Oliver obviously did a really smart thing. He filmed the movie in sequence so that when people got killed,
they left. So it was the most bizarre thing that you created this camaraderie of this acting company, and then you get to a certain point in the schedule, they were gone.
Depp left. We had a party the night before, but after his scene, he was gone.
Richard Edson left early. John Glover left early. All of a sudden, there was fewer and fewer of us.
I don't want to lean on it too much, but that really plays on your imagination and the community we created. You saw it get chipped away at.
You know, you're a few days into filming, and you already know how tight this group is.
If you could time-lapse film a tableau of that bar in all of its initial glory, and then watch it just shrink down and further and further and further.
The group kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller.
Suddenly there was no band. There was no music. It was the few remaining souls.
And I go back to the hotel, and it's just, there's nobody there. And I was back in my room, and I'm getting like, oh, God, they're all gone. Everybody's gone. I'm getting depressed.
I felt each death and each wounding much more deeply than I thought of. I think I had crossed some fourth wall, and those were my guys.
You know, the van's outside, and I've got my stuff, and I look in the bar, which was normally packed with us. Well, there was just John McGinley, and it's just him. There's no music, there's nobody playing, there's nobody. And it's him. I came and I put he kind of softly just slapped his shoulder, and I said, "Hey, I just wanted to say goodbye because I'm leaving." Without turning, not out of anger, but to contain his emotions, he just said, "Well, if you're gonna go, then go."
All of a sudden, there was fewer and fewer of us. You didn't have to act your ass off. You really had to hit your mark and say your lines and exercise this college of experiences that you've been bombarded by.
Bob, I got a bad feeling on this one, all right? I mean, I got a bad feeling. I don't think I'm gonna make it out of here.
I sat next to this businessman, and as soon as we got airborne, it was so deeply akin to the last chopper flight.
The war is over for me now, but it will always be there the rest of my days.
What I was overcome with in that scene, you know, it was identical leaving the Philippines.
I think now, looking back, we did not fight the enemy.
But this guy next to me, he sees I'm in a state and I'm crying. I'm just like, you know, I'm just out the window and I'm really having this moment. He says, what's going on? And I said, I don't think this flight is long enough to explain it.
When we got back to the stateside, a lot of the actors, we did get together. Dale had several parties at his home, and we would all go to that.
We were all clinging to that, you know, camaraderie.
I get to L.A. and moved in with Depp. We had a little studio apartment in Hollywood, and it was a cast and crew screening.
I remember we watched it, and I think many of us were a little bit in shock.
Platoon is a really, really tough film to watch. It's like ugly and violent and depressing. And I had my grandmother and my mother and my stepfather. Kind of like, oh my God, I probably shouldn't have brought my family to this. And my grandmother afterwards saying, I never wanted to see a movie like that again.
You know, my mom tried to scramble out in the middle of the scene where Bundy's bashing the head open, and I basically had to physically put her back in the seat and say, Mom, you have to stay. You cannot walk out. And it was tough for her to watch that.
They had a little party for us across the street at some bar, and I'll never forget. You know, everybody saying, oh, great job, great job. About 6 of us actors, Moses, McGinley, myself, Ivan, we just pushed right up to that bar. Yeah, tequila. We're just drinking, and maybe 3 words were shared, like, fuck. Fuck. All of us knew we fucked that film. I was looking at my new things. My God, he had his finger on the trigger in this scene. Come on, what did we work for 3 months for? We didn't get Daiwi's instruction good enough. Oliver's dream was gonna crash and burn.
I think it was the 3rd time I saw the movie. And we sat and watched it. And watched it differently this time. Because it wasn't like we had, you know, worried about, you know, getting a job from it or winning some fucking award or some bullshit. We kind of watched it sort of over here. And everybody was proud of it. We're all proud of it, you know.
I found out the film was going to be released right around Christmas, and I'm like, super! Nothing says Christmas like Platoon. What are we doing? We're shit out of luck. Nobody's going to see this fucking thing. Well, we can show it to our cousins. That'll be good. That'll be goddamn if it didn't all work out.
We're up at Depp's, and it's Christmas. It's opening night. Let's go and see what the film is doing. Hop in a car. I see some people milling about the box office. Okay, somebody's coming. We get closer. Okay, there's a few people waiting. You get to the corner. There was a line down the block, and we took a left down this block and half a block up. It's good to be wrong sometimes.
And I'm going, God, Oliver, have you seen the reviews? He says, I go, there's not a bad review. I said, every single one of them. I go, you can't do better than this.
I started hearing good things about it. And then in those days, because it wasn't so sophisticated as it is now, I'm at home and my son's babysitter calls me up and says, hey, you've been nominated.
The only thing I think is, like, I really wish my dad was still around to see this. He goes, me too.
The most surreal thing was that it won the Academy Award. I remember McGinley stood up and just didn't know what to make of it. I think he was gonna fall over. Because it's this little film, low budget film, with a bunch of, you know, we're not, you know, we get like, maybe 2.5 actors in the thing, and then the rest of us.
Hemdale threw a party for us at La Scala in Beverly Hills. We were all dressed like we were going to the Academy Awards. It was so great. When the show was over, Oliver, Arnold, Tom Willem, they all came. That was a really, really special night. That was a nice payoff.
When we won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, my phone suddenly started ringing, and all of those guys who said, we don't need you, suddenly did need me.
This is the beauty of it. None of us had pumped in our heads that, oh my God, this movie's gonna win 4 Academy Awards. It's gonna put us all on the map. We didn't know that. We were there to do the work. He hired the right people at the right time that were hungry enough to get in there and do the task at hand.
To be part of the Best Picture, it's like you won the championship that year.
Maybe we didn't get the MVP.
But together, we won the championship.
I, like many other Vietnam guys, came home to not so nice a welcome. The country was ragged and the country was tired. We were ostracized. And I think a lot of Vietnam veterans, too damn many of them, kind of went in a closet and they kept all this stuff inside. I showed it around to a few veterans before it had ever been released or anything like that. Oliver gave me a copy and let me show it. And a veteran said, woof, that's it.
But we now understand it, and rare is the film that brings such understanding of horrible things.
This helped people understand it was a point of reference for something that they could never talk about.
A guy rushed over to me and he said, listen, man, I don't want to disturb you. I just want you to know that I was in the 365th in 1968 and I know you. And he walked away and I wept.
That film had a huge sociological impact on the nation. They were talking about Platoon and talking about each other and talking about their experience, and I think that was very healthy. A lot of Vietnam guys who had for 10 years kept this stuff inside, eating a hole in their guts. A lot of them took their family to see Platoon and said, look, I haven't talked about it, I can't talk about it, I won't talk about it, but there it is.
I'm here because of the impact
All we got to do is make it out of here.
of a little movie we did
Every day, the rest of your life. Gravy.
in the Philippines 30 years ago.
A group of guys that I bonded with so quickly and so impactfully. I think it was because it was a trial by fire that we all sort of went through together.
It may have been the training we went through together. We consider ourselves brothers.
It's not like a job that you get where you show up and you're gonna know your lines and you're in a safety net. This had no safety net.
If I see anybody, it's like seeing a brother.
It was 30 years ago. And when you get back together, it's the same spirit that we had back then.
You and I see each other, it's like yesterday.
And if I ran into to anybody from our experience back in the world, it didn't matter what I was doing, what was going on. It would all come to an absolute Flintstones halt.
We all had the best time in the world and the worst time in the world.
I've never been in another circumstance like it. It was wonderfully unique in that sense. It gave us a chance to bond as actors and as human beings.
I love the guys I made that movie with.
On every film, you go away for 3 months and you live together and you become like a family. But this was a whole other level. And watching you guys, it was like brothers, all of you guys. And it's amazing even today, just seeing you guys out in the hallway.
It's like a bond that was created. I don't want to romanticize it, but it never existed for me. I did 10, 15 other movies and stuff. It never existed on any other movie, that bond.
It was the tightest bond I've ever had on any film.
You know, it was the camaraderie that we formed. It's the bond.
Without a word, you hug, and it's like everything else will wait. And you reconnect. You look into their eyes, and it doesn't matter if it's a month or 3 years or a decade.
These are my brothers. These really are my brothers.
It's truly a confluence of the time that we did it, of the place that we did it in, and of how we did it.
I'll probably, be buried with my helmet and my entrenching tool and maybe a picture of my wife.
The bond that was created isn't one that had to be reinforced by constantly seeing each other. What is that?
Because this is something special. I mean, this is something you just don't forget.
What we all got 30 years ago is a gift I think every one of us is going to die with. And I am so proud to be here doing this today.
I've never been impacted more by 3 months or 4 months. Then Platoon.
I'll never forget you. You know, it's like I love you guys.
I mean, I have no problem looking these guys in the eyes and saying, I love you guys.
We all ended up sort of getting clipped onto one another in this very organic and necessary way.
We're all connected forever. We're all just, we are linked cosmically.
I just want to be back with those guys.
Platoon was great. For 4 months, you got to be involved in something that actually came together and worked. It grounded everybody just for once in excellence. You got to connect with greatness. If you can just reference it from time to time, it functions as salvation, as oxygen.
A bond, strange bond, will never go away. It's seared onto my brain forever until the very final second when I become smoke.
I've got memories and stories and half-truths to remind me of all the places we've ever been. I've got memories and stories and half-truths to guide me until I can find you again. Started out as strangers in another man's land, bonded from dangers of another man's plan. What were we looking for? What we hope to find? I want those good times back, 'cause you're on my mind. I've got memories and stories and half-truths to remind me of all the places we've ever been. Got memories and stories and half-truths to guide me until I can find you again. We were young and we were fine, drunk on coconut wine, walking through the raindrops that were made as yours and mine. Got memories and stories and half-truths to remind me of all the places we've ever been. Got memories and stories and half-truths to remind me of all the places we've ever been. Got memories and stories and half-truths to guide me until I can find you again.